Buenos días, Barcelona! A warm welcome to our guests, colleagues from the media. We're honored to have the creme de la creme of the world's tech media here, and we're very, very excited. Welcome also to our partners and VIP guests who took time out of their busy schedules to be here with us. And we have some Mi fans as well. Thank you guys for coming. Today's a historical day for Xiaomi. It's our first media event in Europe, and it's the first time we're announcing a flagship product at a global stage. We're really, really excited. Now, you probably noticed that in the invitation we said the opening time is 8:20 a.m. That was a hat tip to our partner and the co-sponsor of today's event, Qualcomm. I want to extend a special thank you to the Qualcomm team, especially Magnus and the team who supported us in putting this event together. Thank you guys for making this happen. Now, some of you already know that our logo, MI, stands for Mobile Internet. We are a mobile internet company at heart. That is our DNA. Xiaomi was started by our CEO and internet entrepreneur, Lei Jun, in 2010. We have co-founders who are very, very experienced in the internet and software space, including companies like Google, Microsoft, and Motorola. And we're celebrating only our 6th anniversary or birthday in a few weeks. So Xiaomi is still very, very much a startup at heart in so many different ways. I joined Xiaomi in late 2013, and our Mi fans in China gave me this Chinese name, Hu Ge. The first 2 letters of my name in Chinese, H-U. One of the possible meanings for that Hu is tiger. So to keep it simple, it's simply Tiger Brother. Now, even though we're still a very young company, as I said, we're not even 6 years old. Last year, we sold over 70 million smartphones around the world. And that's, by the way, actual sellout. These are not products sold into the channel, but actually products sold to consumers, mostly because we sell directly to consumers. According to IDC, Xiaomi was the #1 smartphone brand in China in 2015. And that was the 2nd consecutive year. As all of you know, the Chinese smartphone ecosystem is incredibly competitive. So being #1 is really a big milestone for us that we are very proud of. We're currently #5 in the world with just under 5% of global smartphone share. One of our biggest hits last year was our flagship, Mi Note, which many of you carry, and I've seen a couple. Mi Note was a widely acclaimed design. It was a first in a few ways, in particularly because it used 3D glass. And we introduced with Mi Note a curved back design that has since been adopted by several players in the industry. And the Pro version of Mi Note Pro, was one of the world's very, very first devices with Snapdragon 810. Mi 4C was another huge hit in 2015. A battery that's over 3,000 milliamp hours in a 5-inch form factor that's just over 7 millimeters thick. And it was 130 grams, incredibly light. It was a big hardware breakthrough that is yet to be matched in the industry. And it was a very, very powerful device also, thanks to the Snapdragon 808 processor. Our latest mega hit is Redmi Note 3. It's actually the world's first device, and the only one to date, to ship with Qualcomm Snapdragon 650, which is a monster of a processor. It's an absolute powerhouse that outperforms nearly every flagship processor in the market. And it's also our first device to ship with a fingerprint sensor. One of our biggest hits last year was actually Mi Pad as well. We had we were first to introduce a Windows 10-based device last year, and there was an experimental version of Mi Pad. So a great 2015 for us. Now, despite having built amazing hardware products in 2015, our biggest investment area by far remains in software and services. MIUI is our Android-based operating system, as all of you know. And we have a staff of 750 people, mostly engineers, working on MIUI and the various different services. That's a much larger team than our hardware team. This, by the way, was about the size of the Android team when I joined several years back. So it's a very sizable investment as a company. In addition to shipping MIUI on all of our own phones, of course, we support over 300 different Android models from nearly 100 brands. This means pretty much anyone with an Android phone from any brand can become a MIUI user. One interesting thing to note is that MIUI users receive weekly software updates. That's an absolute unique thing in our industry. So for example, when Google issues a software update, a security update, our users are the first ones to get it, no doubt about it. When a user suggests a new feature that we think is a good idea, we may be able to build it as fast as in a few days and push it the following week. That's the speed of the mobile internet, and that's how fast we move. This is something completely unique to Xiaomi and in the entire industry as far as I'm concerned. It's the reason why I like to call MIUI a live operating system. It's a live mobile operating system that changes almost every day. Last year we launched MIUI 7, the latest version of MIUI, and it's been a huge hit for our users. MIUI has in fact just crossed the mark of 170 million users worldwide. And for Xiaomi, more important than measuring how many phones we sell is to measure active users and to measure revenue per user. That's our business model. That's what a mobile internet company does. This chart is an excellent example. Tencent, as you all know, is the largest internet player in China. Every quarter, they publish this ranking that you see here with the most popular phones, Android phones that they see across all of their properties. In the most recent ranking, Xiaomi took a whopping 9 of the top 10 spots on this chart. This goes to say that Xiaomi attracts the most internet-savvy users. Those are the people buying our devices. 2015 was also a huge year for our ecosystem, for the Xiaomi ecosystem. For those of you who don't know, Xiaomi ecosystem is a portfolio of over 50 startup companies that we've backed who are specialized on making smart gadgets and smart home products. And we work together with these companies, all 50 of them, to build and manufacture these amazing gadgets. These are lifestyle products that really complement our product portfolio. It's a very interesting incubation model that we haven't seen in the industry at all, and it's working extraordinarily well. Just to call out a few highlights, Mi Band is already one of the top 3 wearable products in the world. Astonishing in just a few months. Mi Power Banks, our power banks across a few different models, are already the #1 power bank company or brand in the entire world. Our headphones, both the over-ear headphones, the in-ear headphones, have won not only many design awards, but they keep topping many of the audiophile reviews and rankings everywhere, not only in Asia, but especially in the US, where so many audio specialists write every day. And our action camera is also a fantastic product. We've launched a Bluetooth speaker or boombox that has built-in flash card support. It's really, really loud. It sounds fantastic. We have a smart scale. We have a smart bedside lamp that has this really awesome mood control that matches the color of the room. And our air purifier, which is a very, very popular product, reached 20% market share in China after only 7 months. It's a smart air purifier that's connected to the internet. One of our most popular products in 2015 was the 9-bot Mini, which you just saw me riding in on. It features technology from Segway. Segway many people don't know, is actually one of our portfolio companies now. It has a maximum speed of 16 kilometers an hour, which is actually pretty fast, and you can go over 20 kilometers on a single charge. So I actually use it to commute in China. You can also pair it and control it with your phone, like a mini robot. It's pretty cool. And here's a closer look at this really awesome device, the 9-bot Mini, built by a combination of companies, including Xiaomi and Segway. Now, let's talk about flagship. This is what you're all here for. This is our 2016 Xiaomi flagship premiere. Well, just going back a couple of years, Mi 4 was our latest 5-inch flagship. And it sold a total of 16 million phones around the world, which is a huge number. Mi 4 currently ranks number 3 in the top most active Android devices in China, according to yet another company here, Yomang. This is data from just last month. So obviously, our users love Mi 4. And we're here today to talk about Xiaomi's latest flagship, which, as we've been saying, is really all you ever imagined and more. So Mi 5 is here. And I've been using Mi 5 for the past few months. I am completely floored by its performance. My feeling is that it's fast. That is, without a doubt, the first word that comes to mind when I use it. And it's fast beyond what most people can imagine. And let me tell you why. Mi 5 is introducing Snapdragon 820, which is, of course, as you all know, the newest, latest, top-of-the-line flagship processor from Qualcomm. It comes with 4 gigabytes of onboard RAM and up to 128 gigabytes of onboard flash storage. This is our starting point. Now, we've prepared a very comprehensive deep dive. I'm going to look at every little part of this product, and you're going to walk out today with a very, very complete view of what we've built. CPU, 100% faster than a Snapdragon 810 device. GPU, 40% faster. RAM, 100% faster than LPDDR3, which is still the most commonly used memory technology in the industry. And flash, that's almost 100% faster than eMMC 5.0. Look at this. AnTuTu score that goes beyond 140,000. We haven't seen anything like this in this industry. 142,084 to be specific. AnTuTu V6. Absolutely astonishing, insanely fast performance. Now, as we were getting ready to launch this product around the world, we made a few videos, these cool teaser videos, and we distributed them around social media everywhere. And in a matter of days, these videos actually got over 10 million views, which was wildly beyond our expectation. We have quite a few of them, but I'm just going to show you my 2 favorite Mi 5 teaser videos. Let's take a look. Wang Jiayu is actually only the Asian record holder for Rubik's Cube. He's not even the world record holder. Pretty incredible. So I want to share a bunch of insights with you on these tech breakthroughs behind what we've managed to achieve here. In Chinese, we call them heikeji, which is kind of difficult to translate, but it's kind of like black magic. How can all these things be true? It's hard to even comprehend. But I decided to translate just as tech breakthroughs. It's really like an amazing combination of technology and optimization, and it's an art in many ways. Of course, it all starts with Snapdragon 820. This is the Qualcomm chipset with the best reviews in the last 3 generations. The experts love it, they've tested it extensively, and everyone has a unanimous view on how incredible Snapdragon 820 is. It's most definitely the powerhouse. That is the best word to describe it. And Mi 5 is going to be featuring Snapdragon 820, and you get to experience that by yourself later today. So looking at the Snapdragon 820 CPU a little bit more closely, basically double the performance at half the power consumption, which almost sounds too good to be true. Well, Qualcomm has achieved this by moving to the Cryo architecture, which is a phenomenal improvement over the previous generation, especially considering that Snapdragon 820 and 810 are only 1 year apart, right? So these gains are substantial. And those of you who are on the technical side of the media really understand this very well already. The Snapdragon 820 530 Adreno GPU has a 40% higher performance relative to the 810 GPU, which was 510, and 40% more power efficient as well. Again, spectacular gains that really make a difference when it comes to high-end graphics performance. Here's a part of the Antutu 6.0 benchmark. This is just the GPU 3D performance benchmark. And you can see the comparison with 2 of the highest performing flagship devices in the market today. The Adreno 530 GPU is miles ahead. This is basically console-grade graphics. The numbers cannot lie. And there's actually quite a bit more behind this Snapdragon 820 powerhouse. And I'll leave it up to our Qualcomm colleagues to share with you more details directly. There's quite a few of them here today, so you can ask them questions. You can talk about the Cryo CPU architecture or the X12 LTE modem. There's many, many features of this powerhouse chipset. Now, I would like to very briefly invite our co-host for this morning, Derek Aberle, who's Qualcomm's president, to say a few words to us. Derek. Welcome.
Thanks, Hugo.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. It's really a great honor to be here at the Xiaomi Mi 5 launch event. The partnership we have with Xiaomi is really quite special. We've been working closely with them for many years. And I think it's really because we have a shared vision of technology in the market and really work closely together to drive the latest and best use cases and technology into smartphones. And so we were thrilled when Xiaomi picked the 820 to power the Mi 5. And as Hugo has started to go through, and I think he's going to go through in more detail as he continues, you know, this is really a special product. The 820 has been re-architected really from top to bottom. All of the key IP blocks have been substantially upgraded just within the last year, as he said. And we're really excited about it. Excited about the experiences that are going to be created with the combination of our chipset and the engineering prowess of Xiaomi and their products. So it's really a really amazing device, and I think once you get your hands on it, you're all going to love it. So congratulations on the Mi 5 launch.
Let's take another photo.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Thank you very much for co-hosting. Okay, I'm going to jump straight back into performance. Let's talk about memory, which is basically RAM and flash storage. We introduced LPDDR4 memory for the first time in Mi Note Pro in 2015. LPDDR4 is basically twice as fast as LPDDR3 memory, and it's also, by the way, much more expensive to build into a device. For flash storage, Mi 5 is the first Xiaomi product to ship with UFS 2.0 memory. UFS stands for Universal Flash Storage. Basically, we're no longer using eMMC for our flagship. UFS 2 is basically 87% faster for read-write operations than the fastest eMMC. It's basically, eMMC has basically topped out, if you think, over the last couple of years. And UFS is really the technology that's taking over. To just dive a little bit deeper, UFS is basically a very different data transfer architecture from eMMC. eMMC uses an eight-lane parallel bus architecture that can basically only send data in one direction at a time. So it's like a half duplex architecture. UFS uses a full duplex architecture that's serial, and it can send data in both directions. Probably most of you are too young to remember this, but this is kind of like comparing a parallel port, remember LPT1, on a PC to a serial port on a PC. UFS is actually based on the SCSI architecture, which were the high-end serial drivers that were introduced, hard drives that were introduced, just probably in like the maybe mid-90s. So it was a long time ago, but it's the same idea. It's comparing parallel versus serial interface. So UFS is a vastly superior architecture for internal data transfers. I want to talk a bit about network connectivity, which is another area where Mi-5 really shines. Mi-5 supports 4G+, which is how the technology is known here in Europe. For those of you in the US, the name is LTE Advanced. We're basically talking about the same thing. Home broadband speeds, depending on where you live, will vary anywhere from 10 all the way to 100 megabits per second if you have a really, really high-end ISP in your hometown. We go up to 600 megabits per second on Mi-5. That's the maximum theoretical speed, download speed that you can achieve because Mi-5 features a Cat12 LTE modem, once again, thanks to the Snapdragon 820 processor package that we're shipping with. You get this to this level of speed using 3 different technologies, which I'm going to touch on very, very briefly. The first one is 3x carrier aggregation, or CA3, as a lot of people in the industry knows it. It's kind of like using 3 lanes instead of 1 lane for traffic. So you basically put your traffic into 3 different frequency bands, but you're essentially coordinating all of that together as if it was a single road. And it basically gives you 3 times more throughput because you literally have more space for sending and receiving data. Now, this other technology called higher order modulation is actually much harder to explain, and I'm still trying to understand it myself. But sort of to keep it with the analogy of lanes, it's kind of like having a bigger car in each of your lanes. It uses a slightly different package structure to send data up and down, which actually just puts more data in the car, if you will. So these 2 technologies, CA3 and higher order modulation, are what allows us to get the Cat12 level speeds. It basically takes 30 seconds to download a full HD movie, to make that even more clear. Mi-5 also supports voice over LTE, or VoLTE. And 2016 is the year when VoLTE, I believe, is finally going to make a breakthrough into mass market consumer adoption. Several networks are being prepared for full national VoLTE rollout in the US, in China, in India. So really 2016 is a year where consumers are really going to be looking for VoLTE support on their devices. The consumer experience of VoLTE, it's kind of like making a phone call over a VoIP connection. Maybe you're using Skype or WhatsApp when you have a really, really good connection. Except the quality is even higher because when you're using VoLTE, the voice packages get preferential network treatment, right? So it's kind of pushing everybody aside so that your VoIP traffic can go through. So the experience with VoLTE is remarkable for something as simple as making a phone call. So back to what I said earlier, Mi-5 has a CPU that's 100% faster, GPU that's 40% faster than Snapdragon 810, RAM that's twice as fast as LPDDR3, and flash that's also much faster than the previous technology. So adding up the components here. Now, do you want to see what it looks like? All right. Well, in a second. We spent a lot of time refining the design of Mi-4, which was the first product we introduced that had a metal body, a metal frame, and we spent a lot of time working on that. But with Mi-5, we actually took a much more refined and elegant approach because we've learned so much over the last couple of years. So I'm going to give you a very quick glimpse. Take a look. Lights down, please. Okay, so you've gotten a quick glimpse, but you haven't quite seen it all yet, right? Well, before I show it to you, let me just give you a couple of hints here on the design. So when we designed Mi 5, we inherited everything we did for Mi Note, which, as I told you earlier, was probably our biggest work of art so far in phone design. Mi Note was praised widely as the most beautiful Xiaomi phone that we've ever made. And Mi 5 builds on top of that and takes an even bigger leap forward. Okay, finally, let's take a quick peek here. So we'll start with just a side, just a little peek. Looking at it from the back, this is where it starts to feel really familiar to you if you have used a Mi Note before. Do you see something a little bit different here? It's the first time that we're using a home button and front fingerprint sensor on a Xiaomi product, the first time ever. Very, very subdued design. There it is, that's Mi 5. The black version is ever so understated, and yet it's so sleek. It's really beautiful. Starting to reveal some of the details on the back curve here, which I'll talk about in a second. And it's very, very thin. It comes in other colors too, like white and gold, a very light and elegant shade of gold. You'll notice that the face, the front of the device, is the same warm, beautiful, light shade of gold. And you can look at the amazing detail here on the back cover. This is my personal favorite. Giovanna, when she first saw it, said, "Oh wow, is it a holographic effect?" It really looks gorgeous to the eye, especially as you move it around. So it's a beautiful, beautiful back design that's exclusive to the gold version. And here it is again in white. It's this really sort of pearl-like quality of white. And you have to see it with your own eyes. And the silver frame complements it perfectly. Look at this. This is a great photo. Feel free to take as many as you want. Here they're together, white and gold. Isn't this great? And then all of the colors together now. Maybe it's a good time to take some photos. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Mi 5. We'll take many photos today. I can do jumps. I can do backflips, whatever you guys want. Turn it on again. Like this. Hold on. Yeah? All right, let's keep going. We'll take more photos later. Thanks, Juan. Okay. Just one more. This is really good. Aren't these colors absolutely gorgeous? So you're looking at the white, the black, and the gold Mi 5. Now, when we were designing the Mi 5, and as we were passing around some of the early prototypes, Xiaomi coworkers, basically all of our colleagues, started giving it really, really high praise. We were quickly convinced that we just made the most beautiful Mi phone ever. Now, you're going to ask again what I've already told you, but isn't it so similar to Mi Note? Of course, it's not a coincidence. We've learned so much with the design of Mi Note, and it was so widely acclaimed that it was only natural to just inherit all that beauty and then build on top of it. Everyone thinks that Mi Note was the most beautiful product that we ever built, so why not build on top of that beauty? But we believe Mi 5 is even more beautiful than Mi Note. Mi Note is just under 7 millimeters thick. So it's a very, very thin device. Yet, it features an OIS camera that sits flush with the back of the device. Right? So that was Mi Note. It had a seamless back design. It was the first phone ever in the industry with 3D glass in the back and a curved back cover that made it feel so good in the hand. It made it feel so much thinner even than 7 millimeters. Mi 5 improves on all aspects of that design. So here we're doing a comparison of the profiles of Mi Note and Mi 5. You know, Mi Note, as you can see here, has a flat line and then a curve. Mi 5 is completely curved all the way when you look at the profile. Now, for a device that's only 5.15 inches, the feeling in your hand is really, really nice. It was important for us to make this slight adjustment relative to the design of Mi Note. And now with a curved design in the back, the biggest challenge from an engineering perspective is how do you make sure that the glass and the metal are seamlessly connected? They have to feel like a single surface. It's a big design challenge. So I'm going to show you a video right now that shows how we go from the Mi Note design to the Mi 5 design. And you can see how we're essentially making that first flat line a curve, right, by making it much more continuous. So this is what makes it feel like a continuous curve when you hold it in your hand. Right, so it's a beautiful process. This is not exactly how it happens in real life, but it's a beautiful way to show it to you. Now, while we were developing Mi 5 with the 3D curved glass, we also said, why don't we explore some other materials that might do even better than glass? So we picked 3D ceramic as an option for the body, for the back body of Mi 5. 3D ceramic is really durable and it resists any kind of abrasion really well. There's this scale of hardness called the Mohs scale, and ceramic is actually an 8 on this scale. Steel is a 4 to 4.5, just to be clear. And the diamond is, of course, a 10. Not that many things between an 8 and a 10, to be clear. Certainly not things that you could afford to put on a device like this. So it's a very, very resistant material. Now, to be clear, this is not the kind of ceramic that you'd find in tiles or mugs, at home, or plates, or things like that. We're talking about high-grade zirconia ceramic that is exceptionally hard and strong. It's a nano material, to be clear, and it's really, really, it feels very natural to touch. It feels like marble, actually. Kind of the touch is like a marble jade-like touch. And it just doesn't crack nearly as easily as glass would crack. So it's a very, very resistant design. Now, if ceramic is so good, why doesn't everyone use it? Well, we are using it for the first time now, but the real reason, of course, for not using it much more is that it's actually much more expensive. It's 75% more expensive than really high-grade glass. And getting it right is also not easy when you look at it from a manufacturing perspective. To make the 3D ceramic body for Mi 5, we had to design a 16-step manufacturing process. Because remember, it's also curved, right? So it's not just about coming up with a flat slab of ceramic. It's curved design. It actually has to be literally baked to about 1500 degrees centigrade and a very long polishing cycle. Right, so from a manufacturing perspective, it's of course much more expensive. You'll get to experience that a little bit later today. I want to talk about the front fingerprint sensor. This is something that I've actually gotten pretty deeply involved because I really wanted to understand everything that goes into building fingerprint security onto a device. Now, front fingerprint sensors are now relatively common in the industry. They've been around for a couple of years. So you might ask, why didn't Xiaomi do this earlier? Why didn't we add a front fingerprint sensor to a device sooner than Mi 5? Well, it's actually pretty easy to do fingerprint on the front, but it's pretty hard to do it well. So the difficulty of doing a front fingerprint sensor is keeping the phone very slim while also maintaining what we call a high screen-to-body ratio, the percentage of the screen that's occupied by the front that's occupied by the screen itself. So that you don't think I'm making this up, I'm actually going to explain it to you. So there are essentially two designs in the industry today for a front fingerprint sensor. And these are great devices. They're incredibly high quality, super well designed. The round sensor design takes quite a bit of room on the bottom of the device. Now, that means to keep a balanced design, you have to leave a large amount of room on the top as well. Let's zoom in here. So you basically end up with a device that has a larger forehead, as you see on the left here. Now, this is okay for most people, without a doubt. But it's not as beautiful as it could be because it's quite a lot of space. It's a big forehead. It looks better if the forehead can actually be made smaller, which of course is the example on the right here. Now, let me take a look at the back of these devices. So the problem with the shorter forehead, which is what you have on the right here, the forehead is on the other side to be clear, is that it actually doesn't leave enough room for the camera to be tucked into the corner on the back of the device. So you have to put it in the middle. You have to put it in the center. And it's sitting behind the display in this case. So not only does it not look as aesthetically beautiful, it sticks out because it's sitting behind the display, right? So it doesn't look as beautiful, it doesn't look as clean, as balanced. The reason why we spent 2 years designing Mi 5 is simply the fact that we did not want to compromise on these design seeming trade-offs. We didn't want to compromise on either of these. We wanted a balanced design with a display that basically fills up most of the front of the device. And we wanted a camera that's powerful, but that's tucked in the corner, and of course is completely flat on the device. It doesn't stick out. So this was a huge design challenge, and the result was really successful. And you can see here how well we use the surface, the front surface of the device on Mi 5. It occupies a noticeably larger percentage of the screen. It's very easy to see that compared to these other incredibly beautiful flagships as well. But it looks much better. Let's take a closer look. Now you can see that the forehead here is shorter. It's not as tall. And the screen-to-body ratio that I was referring to earlier is much higher. Now, there's an added benefit here, which you can see, which is that the speaker and the camera are perfectly centered. They're not too close to the top or too close to the screen itself. They're perfectly centered, which is another sort of nitpicky design thing that really, we believe, is essential for a device to look beautiful. So it looks just right. Of course, the far more noticeable design achievement here is when you look at the back of the device. Mi 5 has a flagship camera that's tucked in on the corner, and it's completely flat. It doesn't stick out at all. This was a major, major engineering challenge for us, especially on a 5.15-inch form factor. This is really, really hard to do, and it took a long time for us to actually get there. So now I can comfortably say why I think Mi 5 is so elegantly designed. And you probably know more about fingerprint sensors and cameras than you probably wanted to coming into the presentation here today, but there you go. So Mi 5 is 7.25 millimeters thick, so it's a very, very thin device. It's just a tad thicker than Mi Note. It has a screen that's 5.15 inches, but it really has the feel of a 5-inch device for the reasons that I just explained. The first thing that people notice the second they pick up a Mi 5 is how light it is, 129 grams. It's almost hard to believe how thin and how light it can be. Purely as a comparison here, for those of you who carry iPhones, this is about 14 grams lighter than an iPhone 4S, which is already a very, very light device. We all know that. It's one of the biggest things about it. Now, it's especially hard to believe 129 grams when you see that we've placed a 3,000 milliamp hour battery inside of Mi 5. And we're using the highest density battery technology that's available today. It's got an energy density of 685 watt-hours per liter. That's just a metric for density in a battery. So it's a really, really significant achievement to have both of these things, lightness and a large battery. Here we'll just take a very quick look at devices with similar size displays. And it really helps you put in context what we've been able to achieve with Mi 5. And I'll give you a second to browse visually through this table, but look at the battery size, look at the weight distribution. These are typical trade-offs. You kind of have one or the other, but never both. And we've spent a huge amount of time in engineering to achieve sort of this new milestone in the industry. 129 grams, that's the weight with the 3D glass. We also have a ceramic body option and the slim metal frame that we've looked at in so many photos so far. So it's faster and lighter than you ever imagined. Now, what else? What else can we talk about here? Let's talk about camera, which is one of the most exciting parts of this presentation because it's packed with new stuff. Basically, we have a bunch of tech breakthroughs, or heikoji, also in the Mi 5 camera. And I'm going to walk you guys through some of these. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but let me just cover a couple of examples here. So this is a photo taken with Mi 5 in a sort of backlight situation. This is a sunset photo. And you can see the detail here on the waves. Everything is correctly exposed. You can check out, by the way, the EXIF data if you're interested on the bottom right of the screen for every photo. This is a photo taken under normal light from a high vantage point. Now, the same photo taken with very little light still looks really, really good. Can you guys see it okay? I worry that there's a lot of light here, but this photo looks really, really accurate, even though it's a low light situation. This is a moving scene, and you can see here the shutter speed, very, very fast, 1/2300. So you can basically capture motion pretty easily with the Mi 5 camera. I have a bunch of photos that follow because as we were doing the final rounds of testing for Mi 5, Chinese New Year came around. So everyone went off on vacation, to beautiful tropical destinations, and a lot of them came back with great photos. And I'll show you a few of them here very, very quickly. And you can see how gorgeous these photos are. Look at this one. It's a lucky shot, I would say. Definitely a lucky shot. Look at the sea photo, or lake, probably. Does it look familiar? Not my photo. I was working pretty hard during Chinese New Year. Look at this one. All the detail. I wish I had a mega high resolution display here to show you guys what this really is. Look at this. This is really, really nice. Really beautiful photo. Look at the color on this. Awesome, right? It looks like Australia, maybe. Beautiful photos. So this photo has a bit of history. Have you guys seen this? Any of you seen this photo before? A few? Yeah. So I was at my parents' home in Brazil, and I was just walking around their small garden, and I saw this plant. And I took a bunch of photos, and I took this photo, and I posted it on social media. Then the next day, posted a full resolution photo because the fans were saying, "Can you let us see the details?" So I posted a full resolution photo. And then there were a couple of articles that came out, including a couple in India, one of which was written by my friend Francis, that said, maybe this is a fake photo. This kind of looks really good. Maybe it's a DSLR photo. Who knows? Because Hugo took out the EXIF data. Of course, I didn't want to reveal too much about the details of the device. But the level of detail in this photo is so amazing. And that's, of course, why people were speculating, is this photo even real? Well, Francis, especially for you, here's the EXIF data. I'll send it to you later. But thanks for the article. I really appreciate it. Now, I want to talk about potentially one of the coolest features of Mi 5, which is the OIS camera. OIS stands for Optical Image Stabilization, and we've taken OIS to a pretty new level. The first time we shipped OIS was on Mi Note, which, of course, is a larger screen device, 5.7 inches. OIS makes the camera much more complicated, so it's typically seen on a larger device, but not as often on a smaller device, again, because it makes the entire camera assembly more complicated. In a typical OIS configuration, you have this 2-axis image stabilization. It's basically around the rotational axis, right? So it's what we call 2-axis OIS. Mi 5 introduces 4-axis OIS, which is a new kind of optical image stabilization. This is definitely worth an entire article, I assure you. So you have the rotational axis, the same from the 2-axis OIS, and you also, on top of that, have these transversal axes as well. So for close-up shots, the rotational OIS works really good to correct for shaking. But for faraway shots, the transversal axis for the 2 new axes is actually essential, right? Basically, when you're trying to frame a shot, you might move your device around, and you're not actually shaking. You're just moving the device around. But as you do this, you can get blur in your photos, right? So the 4-axis OIS corrects for all of that movement, and it's particularly powerful when you're taking photos in a low-light scenario. Really, really important for low-light photography, but also for moving objects and things like that. And of course, especially if you don't have steady hands. So it's a really big tech breakthrough here, another important Heikeji that we've implemented as part of Mi 5. This is my favorite video of the entire presentation, and I might even play it twice because it's awesome. Take a look. This is showing 4-axis OIS. That's really cool, right? Now here's a trick. So when you go play with Mi 5 outside later, so go into the camera app, obviously with the rear camera on, and face it against yourself, and like shake it or move it around. And if you pay really close attention, you can actually see the camera moving. It's actually amazing to watch because it's really subtle. and it's almost hard to believe how well it compensates for both rotational movement or shakes as well as transversal movements. It's potentially the best demo that I could show you. So it's kind of hard to shake off OIS, but let's keep going. Okay, I want to make a few brief comments about the camera sensor itself. Mi 5 ships with a really advanced camera sensor. It's the Sony IMX298. In fact, Mi 5 is one of the first devices in the world to ship with this particular sensor. It's a 16 megapixel sensor. It supports phase detection autofocus, which is a new approach to autofocus that's basically faster than the blink of an eye. It's at around 0.3 seconds. And more importantly, it's our first camera featuring DTI. DTI stands for Deep Trench Isolation, and it's a technology that basically separates pixels by adding a wall in between pixels. It prevents light from leaking. Here you can actually see a leak scenario where one pixel sees the light that was supposed to go to the other pixel. DTI separates all of this so that you get really clean color separation. You get pure colors. You get better reds, better greens, better blues. And you can really see the comparison here. So this just gives you better looking photos that look much more photorealistic, right? This is about color matching and photorealism. Part of this effect, of course, is also achieved by the ISP, the image processor on the device. You can think of the image processor as the CPU for the camera. It's what really makes the camera work in real time. Mi 5 uses the Qualcomm Spectra ISP, which is also part of Snapdragon 820 package, and it does a lot of stuff, including color enhancement, low light enhancement, skin color compensation, etc. And of course, it also does 4K video, as you'd expect. This is not a 4K display, so you're not seeing all the beauty of the video that Mi 5 can record, but it does really high quality 4K video. Talking briefly next about the front camera. On Mi 5 we're using the same front camera we had on Mi Note, which is a 2-micron large size 4 megapixel front camera. So this gives you really high level of detail, and it works extraordinarily well because of the large pixels in the low light scenario. People really think that the Mi Note camera is amazing for selfies, so of course we just took that camera and we are now using it on Mi 5. Not too long ago, that was the camera that a lot of phones actually, or a few high-quality phones used as their rear camera, to be clear, and I guess you guys know this pretty well. So we've put this camera into now a 5-inch form factor as well. So here's the Mi 5 camera roundup. It's a 16 megapixel sensor, 4-axis OIS, and it's especially awesome that we have this on a 5-inch device. DTI light leakage protection. I didn't even talk about the fact that we have sapphire glass lens, which I didn't even mention. And then 4K video support, large 2-micron front camera as well. So it's a really amazing camera package, like nothing you've ever seen. Display, I'll say a few things about the display as well. So first of all, when you look at this, it looks like there's no bezel. It looks like it's a borderless display. But actually, there are no truly borderless displays. That's a myth. There are no bezel-free phones in existence. In reality, the bezel necessarily has to have these 3 parts, and you can squeeze them as much as you can, but they will continue to exist. So Mi 5 uses what the industry sometimes calls a borderless display, but I don't think that's true. It's just a very thin bezel, the thinnest you'll find on any phone. So it's a really ultra-thin bezel, and it looks extremely elegant, as you guys can see here. A ton of cool features also on the Mi 5 display, which I won't cover in too much detail. For example, I'm not going to talk about reading mode. I'm not going to talk about night display. These are features that we can tell you more about later. We've been investing a lot into display technology, by the way. As a side note, last year we filed 3,600 patents around the world. Of course, it takes a couple of years for you to actually get these patents issued, but patents that we filed a couple of years back are starting to get issued now. Just on display technology, we have 21 patents so far. And this perhaps surpasses many people's expectations, but we've been doing a lot of our own research and R&D work on display technology. Here we're comparing the Mi 5 display with Redmi Note 2, which is a great Xiaomi device that has a higher than average display. And you can tell how much more vibrant the color and the brightness on the Mi 5 display is. Here you can see it in a gaming situation, same comparison. It's great for taking photos because you can just see what you're about to take much more accurately. So it's a great looking display to complement the camera. Now, the key to have a very bright, vibrant and bright display is how you light it from the back, right? Display, think of it simply as an LCD with LEDs in the back and a way to spread the light. Typically on 5.2-inch devices, you'll find displays that are in the 300 to 500 nit brightness level, and they accomplish that by putting anywhere from 12 to 14 LEDs, individual lights behind the LCD. Now, we wanted even more than that, so we actually have 16 LEDs on the Mi 5 display. And in fact, we chose to go with 5.15 inches instead of 5 inches, precisely so we could add more LEDs, because we need a little bit more space behind the LCD. So Mi 5 has a 16 LED light display, which makes it ultra bright and yet quite power efficient. And the reason is we're using really power efficient LEDs. It's about 17% in power consumption reduction in power consumption if compared to the average LEDs that you'd expect on a flagship. And don't underestimate the importance of a 17% sort of drop in power consumption here, especially given that the display is one of the most important power drain elements on the phone, along with the processor and heavy data usage. And we've managed to achieve 600 nits in brightness. A nit is basically a candela per square meter, if I'm not mistaken. And Mi 5 gets up to 600 nits, which is really, really bright. If you combine this brightness capability with the 16 LEDs with a very low reflectivity glass, and especially this one really, really cool technology that we pioneered with Mi 4i called sunlight display, you get astonishing outdoor performance. I will zoom in briefly on sunlight display. This is something that we are very proud of. We worked pretty hard on this. It basically dynamically adjusts the contrast at a pixel level in response to light, to environmental light. It makes the darker parts of the content, whether it's a photo or anything that you're looking at, it makes the darker parts lighter so you can see it better without making the light parts lighter too, because that explodes, it uses too much power, etc. So just make the darker lights come out so you can see the image better, especially when you're outside. I'm going to show you a really cool video that basically simulates the effect of really harsh sunlight and how sunlight display technology works. This is really cool. Check it out. There you go. And all of this, by the way, is done in hardware. So it's done in real time, and it doesn't actually use much power at all because it's done by a DSP that's built into the 820 package. All right, just a couple more things I want to touch on. First one is NFC. So we're working in partnership with NXP to bring NFC back to Xiaomi devices. Mi 5 supports all of the NFC functionality, reading, but also writing to any cards, as well as card virtualization. Card virtualization is what you'd use, for example, for electronic entry doors, which is a very important feature of NFC. The example that I'm showing here is one of topping up a bus card, where the phone is essentially quote-unquote, downloading credits via an app and then writing it to the actual card. Right? So you're writing to a card like you would in one of these machines where you top up at the train station, for example. Right? So this is a new feature that we're supporting with Mi 5, NFC write mode. Quick Charge 3.0, which is also part of the A20 package. So it's supported by Mi 5. It's about 20% faster than Quick Charge 2.0. The cool thing about Quick Charge 3 is that it adjusts pretty linearly and pretty well to even slight variations in current and voltage, as opposed to operating in sort of big bands. So it can basically take advantage of whatever power you give it, independently of which charger you're using. And in our testing, we were able to get like an additional 2.5 hours of usage, average usage, if you will, with just 5 minutes charging with a Quick Charge 3.0 supporting charger. And you can get all the way up to 80 or 90% with a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in about an hour. So it's pretty spectacular. Just to kind of put it in context, what can you do with 10 minutes of charging? You'll get over 2 hours of video playback, almost 3 hours, that should be 2.7 hours, sorry, of navigation, 4.4 hours in messaging, and so on and so forth. Right? So a lot, you can get back in action with you with just a quick charge. I'll talk briefly about MIUI. Mi 5 ships with MIUI 7, which has been really, really widely acclaimed. It's well known for its new, beautiful themes. We preload 5 default themes that are a completely different style, but then you can download, any one from 15,000 other themes from our theme store as well. And Mi 5 is the first Xiaomi device to ship with M, Android 6.0, which is what's powering MIUI 7. So we're really, really excited about bringing Android M to our fans. Mi 5 ships with this really cool new app, which we just call Mi Video Calling. And it's an app that's made by Xiaomi. The key insight here is, video calling has been around for so long, but why aren't people using it on their mobile phones? People use it on their desktops, but not so much on their mobile phones, as much as they could use at least. So we're adding some interesting things here. We're adding the Beautify technology that we have, which all of you who use Xiaomi phones know very, very well is one of the key features of our camera. We're adding that to videos. So we're introducing real-time Beautify, and you can see the effect here, which basically makes everyone look even better in real time. We also allow you to keep your video call going, irrespective of what you're doing. So you can be playing games, you can be doing your Facebook, and you can continue to be on that video call. And then sometimes you want to see the other person, but you don't really want to talk, or you kind of can't really talk because you're not in a place where you could or should talk. But then you can do a lot of things. You can send pictures, into the video call as sort of the background to the conversation. It's kind of an interesting, lively way to have a conversation with someone, being connected without necessarily having to talk. We're also adding a bunch of real-time video effects as part of this this app. They're overlay features that you can just kind of drop into the call. And it's kind of makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more fun. So this is something that hasn't been done before. We think it's actually really cool, so we're experimenting with it. She's very famous in China, by the way. And we also support video calls, group video calls, as well as, anyways, up to 4 callers in a single video conference. And this app is actually available on Android and iOS. It's available for download on any phone right now. This is a really cool sort of 10-engineer team that we have working on a new app. And Mi 5 is the first device that actually ships with it pre-installed. So that's Mi Video Calling. Now, I'm going to come back to Mi 5. We're almost done here. So I showed you at least 10 tech breakthroughs, or 10 heikoji. Of Mi 5, which are these really astonishing little things that we've done, almost like black magic, to really bring an amazing product together that people wouldn't think possible. So some of the features that I talked about today, just to highlight, the 4-axis OIS camera, deep trench isolation also as part of the camera sensor, everything that Snapdragon 820 brings around speed and performance. Sorry, I think you dropped your phone, by the way. UFS 2.0 flash and a 3D ceramic body on this side. I talked about Cat12 support, which is also part of the Snapdragon 820 package. 16 LEDs, quick charge 3.0, and full-featured NFC, including write capability and card virtualization. And just because we can, here they are again. All of the different features. This is a great photo of Mi 5. Should we take another photo? Can I get the devices back? Jiren, where are you? Why not take some photos? Yeah? A couple more? And we'll do one more in the end. Just because this is a really cool word cloud, just in case. Yeah. I have one more photo up in the end, so we'll get to that in a second. Okay. So what are we missing? Price. Okay. Okay, I'll just tell you right away in a second. Okay, so to kind of just put it in perspective, I chose a couple of devices here thinking first and foremost about 128 gigs. So let's look, what are the flagships that offer the 120 gig option out there? So I've laid them out here, and you can tell I've kept these prices in renminbi, but they're very, very expensive, as you can see. But these are devices that we thought sort of roughly compared in some way from a spec perspective, even though Mi 5 obviously has everything I've told you about here today. But 120 gig phones are on average around 5,000 renminbi, which is pretty expensive. It's like $700, $800 in US dollars terms. So I'm pretty excited to announce that the top of the line version of Mi 5 is what we call Mi 5 Pro. So this is Snapdragon 820 with 4 gigs of RAM, 120 gigs of onboard storage, and the 3D ceramic body that I talked about earlier today. And the price for this, $26.99. So if you, thank you. If you take out the 17% VAT, which is built into the price in China, and you do a quick conversion using like yesterday's FX, this is 354 US dollars. 354 US dollars, or about 321 euros. So that's for Mi 5 Pro, which is our top of the line SKU for Mi 5. That's Mi 5 Pro. Now the entry configuration for Mi 5, which is the 32 gig version with 3 gigs of RAM, and it has a 3D glass body, which you've also seen today. The price for that is 1999 renminbi. So that is 262 US dollars. 262 US dollars without the VAT for a Snapdragon 820 device with everything I've talked about here today. That's roughly 238 euros, by the way. And here is the full lineup, including the 64 gig model that's in the middle there for $22.99. So we have 3 SKUs of Mi 5. Now, Mi 5 is the first Snapdragon 820 device that you're probably going to be able to buy. It's the first one commercially available in the world. And in fact, it's going to be available starting next week on March 1st in China, both on Mi.com and at our Mi homes, which we have over 20 already in China. So 1st of March, available in China. And we will soon bring it to our global markets, including India and other markets. Dates coming very, very soon. So very, very excited about this. And here's the full lineup again. We'll do one more photo. Should we? Okay. So here you can see all 3 colors. You've got the white, the gold, the black. They all look gorgeous. I've got the ceramic. This is the ceramic version of Mi 5 right here with the white version. Try different positions. Yeah. Now, the best thing is that you get to try it for yourselves. They're waiting for you outside so you can try them out. We have quite a few units, so everybody gets to play around with it. And I just want to say thank you, guys. Thank you. Really, really appreciate you coming, making your time during a busy MWC. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you.